The train, for its type, is the most powerful vehicle on land. And the engines of Sodor are the power behind the docks, industries and branch lines that make up the world-renowned North-Western Railway. These are the stories of Sodor. In all my years, I have noticed two things about railway life. Nobody can resist watching a train go by, and the importance of rolling stock is often overlooked. If a railway had neither coaches or trucks, I doubt very much it could or would exist at all. Like us engines, rolling stock comes in faceless and non-faceless categories, and whenever we have to marshal a train, we try to staff it with non-faceless carriages, as they are able to apply their own brakes. This obviously makes for a much safer train. It should come as no surprise that trucks make up the vast majority of non-faceless carriages when compared to coaches. In fact, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure Annie and Clarabelle were the only non-faceless coaches. At least on the standard gauge lines. The narrow gauge railways were a different matter. As it is with non-faceless engines, this seems to be an inexplicable chance occurrence.
Really? It doesn't bother you? Of course not. Why would it? It's just, ever since A Tasket came out, it's been everywhere. I can't go by a single station without hearing it come through the wireless, and never mind the number of workmen who hum along to that song. I quite like Ella Fitzgerald, and I can't help but join in whenever a passenger starts singing. That's what I'm saying. People are sitting inside of you when they sing. That'd drive me balmy. I don't get how it doesn't drive you off the rails. Well, for one, I'd prefer to stay on the rails where possible. But the second reason is far more important. Which is what? That the best way to service our passengers is through tolerance. Exactly. It wouldn't do us any good if I told a passenger to shut up, now would it? Huh, I guess not. Have you never pulled a passenger train, Eric? No, I've always stuck to goods work. But I've wanted to.
I reckon you should, Eric. You'd be pretty good at it.
Really? You think so?
I do. Big friendly lad like yourself, the passengers would gravitate towards you no problem.
Oh, well, thank you, Douglas.
No worries. Well, I best be on my way. So long. Now isn't this interesting? A pile of rusty red scrap iron has crawled out of my trucks.
I'm glad I ran into you, Douglas. Mickey's looking for you. Another signal box got smashed up and he wants to know if you had anything to do with it.
No, I didn't. But when I see him, I'll tell him it'll be as good as new after applying a few bootlaces.
All right, Mitty, you crossed a line.
I crossed a line?
You've got some nerve. Oh, push off, you Caledonian git.
Get scrapped, you pompous firebug.
Clear off, you. Blimey, what is with those two?
I'm surprised you don't know, Eric. Have you never asked?
I've wanted to, but every time I do, something tells me that I shouldn't. Do you know?
I do. You want to hear it?
Not sure. Do I?
It's nothing like the story of Arthur, Eric. It's far more petty. It wasn't long before Percy joined your group. Douglas accidentally crashed into a signal box at Tidmouth thanks to some grease being on the tracks. Although it wasn't his fault, that didn't stop James from tormenting him about it. A couple of weeks later, he got into an accident himself near Marin. After that, it was Douglas's turn to heap on the scorn, and the pair have been at each other like a couple of mangy dogs ever since.
Phew, that's not petty, Duke. That's just pathetic.
Yes, it is.
Excuse me for interrupting, Duke, but I require the company of these lovely ladies for a most important job. Oh, Andreas, you charmer.
Express run to Arsdale?
Indeed, a most important job that serves as the cornerstone for our quaint little line. Now, if James could pry himself away from his childish squabble to deposit my passengers, that would make the situation all the more agreeable. Well, James, so nice of you to join us.
Oh, don't start, Andreas. I am not in the mood.
Not in the mood to do your job? Yes, that is apparent. If you were, you would have been on time.
3 minutes, Andreas. That's how late I am. It's hardly the end of the world.
And why were you late? Because you chose to stay and bicker with Douglas about some petty grievances.
In case you didn't notice,
I don't have time to discuss this with you. I'm running late as it is. I will need to press myself hard to meet my timetable. Observe how a professional acts, James.
Cool. Express engines. Big or small, they're all the same.
That wasn't just a snide remark from our number 5. Andreas was the express engine for the Mid-Sodor Railway, a designation packed with the usual expectations, responsibilities, and hubris. Of course, he was nowhere near as fast as Gordon, but by all accounts, he was just as reliable when it came to delivering passengers about the rugged territory through which the MSR weaved. Ooh! Rebecca, what's wrong? One of the passengers, he just put out his cigarette in one of my chairs. He what? The cad! You must point him out to me when we reach Alsdale, Rebecca. I intend to have a few choice words with him. Afternoon, Andreas. You look rather put out. Did Stuart cut you off again? No, Atlas. Even worse. Some upstart passenger has assaulted poor Rebecca. Assaulted? How? Please, Andreas, don't fuss. I'm fine. Nonsense. Nobody has the right to use my friends as an ashtray. Well, Rebecca, where is he? Look, he's probably... Wait, that's him, the man in the black coat. I say, sir, might I have a moment of your time? What is it? Did you extinguish a cigarette by thrusting it into the seat of one of my coaches? So what if I did? I would like to inform you that this careless action caused great pain to the hosting coach. I would appreciate it if you apologize to her immediately. There'll be a man on the moon before I ever apologize to a blue-painted cattle truck. Excuse me, sir. Andreas, leave it. I am giving you one last chance. Apologize or face the consequences. Are you threatening me? What can you possibly do? This. This was a brand new suit. Oh, I am sorry, sir. You will be. I promise. You will be. Andreas, you shouldn't have done that. Was I wrong to do it? No, I don't think you were. Well, I know you were. Still, thank you, Andreas. My pleasure. I'm sorry to say there would be ramifications to Andreas's actions, as the man he doused turned out to be Burke, as in Burke and Blair. He went straight to the MSR's director, who promptly punished his express engine by sticking him on indefinite goods duties. But it didn't end there. Using this assault on his person, that weasel Burke and his partner managed to manipulate the LNER's board into launching an investigation into its operations on Sodor. We had inspectors crawling about the place, questioning us over every single train we had ever taken and tabulating any losses that were incurred. Toby's unauthorized overhaul was determined to be a great loss to the company's finances, which imperiled Mr. Starr's position greatly. Blooming bean counters! They've got some nerve questioning our efficiency. I know. Never mind the fact we handle more trains with less engines than any other branch in the LNER. Why don't they take that into account? Because desk jockeys only see the world through the numbers in their ledgers. Well, they should be able to see that I'm one very irritated engine. And that Burke... Grr, he got what he deserved. You know, I just realized something. What was he even doing on the Mid-Sodor Railway? That's a good question. And I might have the answer, lads. Rodney? How do you mean? Well, a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting near the station minding my own business when I heard Burke talking to a woman. Quite intimately, in fact. Is he married? My guess is he's forgotten that. At least while he's here on Sodor. Well, that'll come in handy. I did not just hear you say that. What? Burke and Blair have never been above using blackmail. That doesn't make it right for us to use it. So what? We just sit on this information? We can't prove it. Even if we could, yes, we stand mum. Why? Because if we do blackmail Burke, we're admitting guilt. And we've done nothing wrong. Have we? No, we haven't. Good. Now, I don't want to hear another word of this. And I don't want you to get any ideas, Thomas. Understood? Yeah, Edward, I got it. You old fusspot. He does have a point, Thomas. 2 wrongs don't make a right. I know. Still, I can't help but wonder what would happen if we did say something. We didn't have to wonder for very long, I'm sorry to say, as the matter was taken out of our hands. Rodney wasn't able to keep his mouth shut and blabbed about Burke's encounter every chance he got. The rumour mill took care of the rest, the details finding their way back to the inspectors and the press. To this day, I'm still conflicted about the end results. With Burke's character thrown into question, the integrity of the board's investigation was compromised. However, Mr. Starr was still issued a light reprimand. Thankfully, he retained his position as our director. Not long afterwards, the inspectors left in the company of Burke and Blair. I'm pleased to say this was the last time we ever saw the pair of them. Burke hit the skids following a nasty divorce from his wife, and Blair, well, we never did find out what happened to him. This will likely come as a surprise given Rodney's behaviour and the many instances depicted in books and on the television, but trucks are not in fact troublesome. Granted, there have been a few occasions in my stories where they have teased an engine, but that was about as serious as it got. As I said, non-faceless rolling stock can apply their own brakes, but that's all they can do. Never at any point have they ever been fitted with a means of propulsion. No engines, no pistons, no boilers. This obviously means they certainly can't bump us, and even if they could, they wouldn't. I mean, why would they want to cause an accident, given that, compared to engines, they're the ones most likely to be destroyed in a crash? If you were to wander around a railway scrapyard, you'll find much of the detritus there comes from demolished rolling stock. However, like all stereotypes, they stem from the actions of a disagreeable minority. In this context, I'm talking about trucks that were seemingly built with disagreeable or defiant personalities. At this time, probably the worst offender was a vainglorious brake van named Dominic. He complained bitterly about feeling unappreciated and would take out his frustration on whatever engine was unlucky enough to be paired with him. He did this by not fully releasing his brakes, causing the engine to pull their train at a crawl. One day, he and Douglas got into a vicious row. After that, Dominic developed an acute dislike for the Middy's number 10 and gave him no end of grief. Probably the worst instance of this was when Douglas had to deliver a vital shipment of coal to Brendam, one that was intended not just to refuel his crew, but the many ships that were in port at the time. Because of Dominic, he arrived late. This caused all manner of chaos about the docks. The captains took out their frustration on Mr. Zorro, who redirected it onto Douglas. For Donald, this was the last straw, as he couldn't stand the idea of his twin being blamed for the actions of a spiteful brake van. "You're a muckle nuisance! It's to leave you behind I'd be wanting." "You can't. I'm essential." "Ah, Carrier! You're nothing but a screech and a noise when all's said and done. Spike Dougie, will ya? Take that! Oh, ow, 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 ow! And there's more coming, should you misbehave." "Oh, no, there won't be." "Mickey, what are you doing here?" "The question is, what are you doing? Assaulting rolling stock is a very serious offence, Donald. This Pratt has been giving my brother all manner of grief, and how's biffing him going to change that? He might stop doing it in future. Will you, Dominic?" "Well, See, Donald, if it had worked, he would have answered with a resounding yes." "Dominic, are you alright? Will you need to go to the works after this?" "No, Chief. I'm fine." "Good, because after I report this to Joey, you and I are going to have a few stern words." Joey was informed and charges were filed. For his crime, Donald was shunted for 2 whole weeks, during which time Douglas ripped into his brother rightly. Mickey and Dominic had a long talk afterwards. Whatever was said, the brake van behaved much better from then on. He and Douglas stayed apart for a good long time, until the day when James had to deliver some coal to the mainland. Our number 5 wasn't feeling too well,
and struggled along the main line before he was forced to stop at Wellsworth.
Goodness, James, are you alright?
Why do you care?
Alright, sorry for asking. I'll hie myself out of here then.
No, wait. Listen, Douglas, could you help me up the hill, please?
Did I hear that right? Are you asking me for help?
Douglas, please. This is hard enough as it is.
Alright, laddie, I'll give you a push.
Thank you.
Oh, hello, Dominic. Are we going to have a problem today? No, Douglas, no problems. Glad to hear.
You sat back there? Aye, let's go. Amazingly, the pair worked remarkably well together and made good progress towards the hill. But all that changed when they began to climb it. James did his best, but his condition meant that Douglas had to do most of the work. That was how it happened. Oh, what is it? Take it easy, I'm getting squished here. I thought you said we weren't going to have a problem. Douglas, I'm breaking apart. Please, stop. Hogwash, you'll be fine. Stop complaining again. Goodness, Douglas, what happened? I just smashed up Dominic. What? What do you mean smashed up? I mean, he's in splinters, reduced to kindling. Bust my buffers. I killed him. All right, let's not panic. James, I killed him. I'm sorry to say that he did. Dominic's body was smashed to pieces, which did effectively end his life. Mickey and Joey arrived swiftly at the scene to conduct their investigation, ordering James and Douglas to wait at Marin until they were done. He said he was breaking apart. He begged me to stop. I told him to shut it. Why didn't I listen?
It's not your fault, Douglas. I wasn't pulling hard enough.
Maybe I was pushing too hard. I guess we'll never know.
Alright, we're all done on the hill. James, you're free to go. But since I can't let you carry on without a brake van, I'll run at the rear of your train.
Yes, Chief. What about Douglas?
He has to stay put. I need to ask him a few questions. Yes, Constable.
Good luck, Douglas.
Thanks, James. Now, Douglas, I understand you and the deceased have a rather nasty history. As you can tell by that question, the senior constable put Douglas through the ringer, and while he would be exonerated, that didn't stop a number of Dominic's friends from chastising the middy's number 10, calling him a murderer, and worse. Though most of the trucks and his colleagues were very supportive, for the longest time, Douglas was addled by the grief of destroying that spiteful brake van. Maybe that was a good thing. After all, only a monster wouldn't feel guilty.